Mic check. Oh, can you hear me? Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for having me. Any chance I can get to get people to listen to me, I'll take it. I'm a performer at heart. But no, thank you so much for joining. We're going to geek out a little bit, and we're going to talk about a lot of things I don't think enough people or organizations are talking about. And so, why the creator economy, and why is AI relevant to the creator economy? Well, it is the biggest form of media. If you take all of TV, all the streaming platforms, everything, and you combine them together, it's a fraction of the viewership of creators on YouTube. And that's not counting TikTok, that's not counting the Meta platforms or the 100 relevant Chinese platforms that are video platforms. And so there's a lot happening here, and it's very exciting. I'm excited to dive in a little deeper with each of you. You're all probably familiar with these applications. ChatGPT, DALL-E 2, Midjourney. I'm sure a lot of different presentations today are covering these. There's two things in common with each of these different breakthroughs. And two of them come from OpenAI, of course. But one, these are groundbreaking when it comes to leveraging unstructured data. So that's the data outside of the spreadsheet. Large groups of text, long language models, images, video. You have now Clip coming out that's doing generative around video and audio. And so there's a lot of exciting things happening here. But there's breakthroughs when it comes to AI being able to leverage this really huge data set. Two, all of these are applications in media and arguably entertainment, whether it's creating images, and doing things that are very superhuman when it comes to writing blogs or emails or books when it comes to ChatGPT, creating beautiful forms of art with Midjourney. And so there's a lot of things that are really groundbreaking here, but we're seeing just the very beginning. And we're seeing the very beginning with the bottom line impact. I mean, the truth is, we are really still at the very early stages of AI and where it's going. But one thing that I get really excited about is not only trying to figure out how to create images or how to figure out how to automate the way of creating video and content, but how can you predict human behavior as a result of that content? And so this is something that BENlabs, our organization, has been working on for the last 10 years, where we're very obsessive on not just understanding human attention and how to get in front of these humans, but how can you predict behavior? How are you going to predict if something's going to work or not work? The truth is, the data exists. And so our organization acquired a variety of different businesses, 4 businesses here, and we had 2 objectives. One, they were category leaders in entertainment, in their own form of entertainment. I'll go over each of them quickly. But then 2, they each had a data moat when it came to human behavior and performance around content. So we take a data science approach to creators and influencer marketing, where we create models, customized deep learning algorithms to really help not only predict viewership of native content, but actual engagement, as well as conversions and transactions and sales. And that sounds too good to be true, but the data's there and it's working. If you take enough time to train a model with enough of the first-party data and video data that is out there, you can train AI to be able to predict not only how well the content is going to do, but how it's going to impact certain audience clusters and different communities and how they're going to react to that content, whether it's a click or an actual sell. We also have the biggest community of content creators outside of the social networks. We have had over 15 million content creators and influencers that have often to give us access to their data, so they have access to AI SaaS tools to help them grow their audience on YouTube, optimize video, and also ultimately grow their revenues. We do the same thing when it comes to music. And then we also own the category leader for product placement. People will probably ask, how in the hell are you leveraging AI for product placement? And a lot of people think of very mystical, creative ways. We need to predict the pilots before they come out, if a brand should be involved in a TV series or not. In the last 4 to 5 years, we've been able to predict 8 out of the top 10 new TV series pilots before they come out. And a lot of you might think, oh, well, that's going to be easy because it's the celebrities that are involved or the directors. Nope. That actually doesn't help that much. It's really the synopsis or the script. It's the large groups of text. It's the shit that we call unstructured data. And so this technology exists. It's not evenly distributed yet, but it's going to be very game-changing with the renaissance that we're seeing with AI and also with content creation. And so when it comes to entertainment, when it comes to media, I'm going to make a prediction now that it's going to be the leading industry when it comes to AI. And the reason why is because there's more unstructured data, more video data in these categories than anywhere else, than any other industry. There's 300 million content creators and productions, which means there's tens of millions of videos being uploaded every hour. And those videos are wonderful for AI because it is data, and it's the strongest data that you can leverage. And I get really excited about this because I really do believe that there's a lot of controversy that AI is taking over artists, but I really think this is going to be the gateway that empowers artists to scale creating of art and content and be able to distribute that. Can I actually have one of those waters? Thank you. But basically, it's an exciting time because art. There's more art and more self-expression now than ever before, and art is what preserves history. It's what preserves culture. But we also know that it's data that we can learn from, and hopefully, with all this self-expression and all this art that is out there, hopefully we can have a better future, and maybe we can be a little more inclusive. And so the industry in media and advertising and marketing are facing three different issues I don't think enough people are talking about. One, consumer ad behavior is at an all-time high. And when it comes to consumer ad avoidance, more people are skipping ads and avoiding advertising than ever before. Two, as we talk about this era of the artist or decentralization of the creator economy, that's almost impossible for human minds to compute. When there's tens of millions of videos being uploaded every hour and 300 million different content creators, you can't organize that in your head. You're going to need to have technology that can learn like a human but scale like a machine to monitor, prioritize, and model all this content that is out there. And then these two disadvantages that are really disrupting the marketing space, which every CMO should have a data science or machine learning team moving forward. Every marketing department should. But what takes these two disadvantages in marketing and makes them an advantage is the untapped potential of leveraging unstructured data and creating deep learning and machine learning models and algorithms. And so just to go into some of the talking points real quick so you don't think I'm full of BS, 90% of the globe skip ads. 47% of the globe use an ad blocking technology, and I would say that's very conservative when it comes to developed countries. Also, 46% private browse. 85% of iOS users, anyone that has an iPhone, they opt out of being tracked. And so this behavior is becoming very complicated for advertisers, media companies, and marketers to truly capture the attention of consumers. People don't want to be disrupted. This is why Amazon Prime, Disney+, Netflix have all been extremely successful in growing large communities and getting huge viewership, is because people are willing to pay money to avoid seeing an advertisement so they can binge watch on their own terms. And this is not going away. This behavior is increasingly becoming more and more obvious. Also, privacy laws, GDPR. There's a lot of different regulations across the globe, as well as across the states in the United States of America. There's a lot of regulation coming here, and I think it's very valid. A lot of marketing tactics around, especially affiliate and performance marketing, has been very intrusive, or very intrusive with people's privacy. And this is going to be something that becomes even a bigger obstacle. And by the way, when we talk about leveraging AI to make predictions, you can do it in a way where you don't need to know that someone's name is John from London that has a dog that makes 60,000 pounds a year. You can truly do it based on how audiences react to the content as loyalists, as clusters, where you don't need to know the names of the individuals to be that successful. We'll talk more about that. Decentralization is one of those things that's becoming very challenging. We already talked about the quantity of creators, but there's also starting to be a decentralization of platforms, where it's getting very difficult for brands, but also content creators, to be able to create more content that's relevant to different audiences on different platforms, from TikTok to Reddit to YouTube. They're all very different animals. And to be able to be successful on each of those platforms, you need to be consistent. And this is becoming more and more of a challenge, not just for brands, but also for creators, which is why we bought that TubeBuddy product. MarTech is just not keeping up. Whether it's a social media advertising program or companies, let's say like a Trade Desk, all these different platforms that are supposed to help people with media buys. No one is putting enough effort and investment in contextualizing content to understand what's going to happen as a result of that content going live. And so this is something where it's going to require a lot more investment and a lot more focus from not just brands, but from the actual platforms themselves. Many of these platforms have made an effort to try to help organizations and brands to get into the content, but I would say all of them have half-assed it and have all failed. We know this happened with YouTube. We know this has happened with Meta, and it continues to happen with the other new platforms as well. And so the reason why this is an issue with ad avoidance and decentralization and understanding how to leverage unstructured data to be able to take advantage of this new world of decentralization is that these content creators have real impact. Lipstick Brother from China a year and a half ago generated in 15 hours of a live stream $1.9 billion in sales. $1.9 billion in 15 hours, selling random products. That's more than Spotify does in a year. That's more than I think Paramount and Viacom, one of the biggest media companies in the world, does, I think, in a quarter. It's close to around the same amount. I'm not on top of those numbers, so don't quote me on that one. But it's a huge amount that's coming from one individual and his small team. Via did $1.2 billion in 15 hours. You have Mr. Beast, who has no experience with chocolate, launches a chocolate company, and in 1 year starts beating Hershey's in a couple different categories and is making hundreds of millions of dollars, driving candy sales. You have London's own KSI and Logan Paul launching Prime Energy drink that's starting to make the beverage companies shaking their boots. Because they're not only getting hundreds of millions of views, they're selling out stores. Children are starting to trade these Prime Energy bottles at their schools. The black market is selling these bottles in places where they're not distributed yet for like $50. There's a lot of things happening right now. And doing a traditional subjective creative campaign or media buy where you're just looking at a portion of the data is going to be a huge miss because there's a lot of content, there's a lot of data out there. And this creator economy is expected to be around $500 billion industry, I think by 2027. And we know where AI is going. It's going to be even bigger than that. And so it's now time for people to stop being blind, because when it comes to the creator economy, I mean, I think it just in data in general, it's like 20% is structured, which is what you put in the spreadsheet. 80% is unstructured, but in the creator economy, it's 10% and 90%. Now, what's interesting about this is when you think of people that are looking at these spreadsheets and they're doing media buys, et cetera, they are definitely looking at these Excel spreadsheets, but they're only looking at 10% of the data that's out there. Does it now make sense why marketing and advertising campaigns are very inconsistent? It's because they're fucking going into this blind. And that's a continuation. And so taking these new tools and looking at all the data is going to be essential. As I mentioned, we've done models that have been able to predict sales. What's interesting about that is the most important data feature isn't the average views. It isn't the average click-through rate. It's audio. Audio is the most important feature when predicting sales. And so you need to make sure you get that type of data. And so the creator economy, and when it comes to all this content that is out there, social video and entertainment, it really becomes the best data set to start modeling all of your efforts in marketing, where you can better understand the content and contextualize the content that's going to be successful, but also understanding and better able to contextualize people engaging with the content. A lot of times we put people in the box, and so there's been a huge focus on helping people with structured and unstructured data navigate all this different content, all this decentralization, to truly be able to connect and resonate with your audience at scale. And some of that helpful. And so it's been such a a big area of data where we've had to launch our own machine learning operation platform, where it makes it much easier for our data scientists and data engineers to be able to deploy models and deep learning algorithms within hours rather than weeks or months. And those that, who here's a data scientist? Deploying models can be very difficult. And so not only do you need to have models that can contextualize content and community, but also being able to have a machine learning operation system is going to be something that I think every organization that has more than a $100 million media budget is going to need to have, so they can continue to customize things, to be successful, to drive impact for their brands. And so the value of unstructured data is very important. And being able to also contextualize different individuals and different clusters of people based on their behavior and based on their interests is also very important. Right here, you'll see millions of dots of content creators, but you'll notice that they're clustered in different areas. They're clustered in these different colors and these different areas based on audience overlap, but also based on similar content and aesthetics, where we leverage both NLP and computer vision to create a vector, to be able to identify groups of people based on their interests. And why is this important? Well, most media campaigns, they focus on, most media campaigns, they focus on demographics and geographics. But really what it comes down to is demographics of people from the same area, same race, same background, doesn't always match. King Charles and Ozzy Osbourne, close to the same age, both been married twice, both white, they still, are wealthy and famous. Do they watch the same content? Do they eat the same food? Do they listen to the same music? I'd argue that they're probably really different. And so what we've learned is you have three people on the same street, let's say in London, we'll assume because of the same race and same economic background that they're the same person. But most likely one of these people maybe resonates more with another group of people like in Los Angeles or Mumbai that loves anime. So what we've learned in building model behavior and predict human behavior, it's not just about the content and understanding the content's going to be successful, but it's also understanding the interests and how they're going to react to content that is going to be aligned with their interests. And so audience intelligence now is more important than ever before. We can't put people in a box. Also, being able to navigate fraud. Like 4 years ago, $1.3 billion was spent on fraudulent behavior with influencer marketing. It's probably billions now. And what we've learned is that 70% of creators on Instagram have between 20 and 40% fake engagement. So understanding the value of these communities and these content creators is really important. And so leveraging it to create content, being able to make predictions, whether it's viewership or sales, this technology is all here today. And real quick, I know we're going to open up questions in just a second. We have countless case studies where this has been successful, where this is an example of somebody going from fifth in their category to first in 6 months. We created a custom algorithm for this toy company to create a custom algorithm to predict sales in Walmart, Target, and Amazon. In 6 months, they went from fifth in their category to first in their category with a 15% market share to a 50% market share, and they've retained that a year later. And so it comes down to making sure you learn and train the AI. You start creating content that's specific to you and what you're trying to accomplish. You model it, and then you scale it. And then you're able to get the people's attention that's actually going to be watching the content, and they're not going to be avoiding it. And so we're still at the beginning, and I'd love to answer your questions. Sorry, Paul.
Sorry to rush you, Ricky. It's a super interesting topic. We have 5 minutes for Q&A, but I'm sure Ricky will be available afterwards if we need to. So if you have a question, please raise your hand. I think we have a mic somewhere. Just give us your name and the company you're from. Yes, this gentleman here at the front.
Sorry, this is very exciting. Thank you so much. Just a more general question. With the scaling, if everybody's scaling the content creation, and how do you mitigate against that there's like just instead of 100 million, 10 million videos a day, there is 1 billion videos a day. How do you possibly organize that?
Yes. Yes, no, that makes sense. And so you need computing, you need to be able to have the right models to help you contextualize all of this. And you need to be able to have technology because, like for example, if I were to try to describe this glass, I could describe this glass in 5 different ways. You could probably do it 7 different ways. Our AI could describe this glass in 20 million different ways. It can contextualize it and make correlations with other glasses in a way that just as humans we can't. It can do that with video as well. And so we have a patent for a model called the bottleneck encoder network, where it's a patent where we really contextualize what's happening inside the video that's making a difference outside the video. So being able to understand the video and as well as the community is very important in navigating all of this. But creating a custom model of whatever you're trying to accomplish is extremely important. You can't just take an existing model that's from a competitor or from a sister brand that you own and make a model for a new project. You have to build it from the ground up. You can take generalized data, but you have to train it with first-party data to make it so you can make an impact. If you can scale that up, where you have the right technology, the right data, the right data systems, data-driven systems and processes to work with more content, what can happen is you can have the impact of a Super Bowl ad, or let's say an ad for the World Cup every week. The inventory exists, but brands need to invest in the right technology to leverage it and to be able to really communicate with people at the masses because of this new behavior.
Thank you, Ricky. Next question, please.
I think I saw someone in the back.
Is there someone with a hand up?
Right.
Yes.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you for this very inspiring speech. My understanding is that you're running between influencers and the brands, and you mentioned that AI is going to scale the way the influencers create. Can you tell us more about that, and what is your role with regards to that?
Yes.
And are you recommending solutions?
Yes.
Just to understand, how you embed AI in your service, in your relationship with brands and with your influencers.
Yeah.
Ricky, you have one minute. Sorry, 1 minute to answer.
1 minute, okay.
Your challenge.
I'll do that really quickly. He knows I'm long-winded and I want to pitch myself now. So, so basically, you're going to use this technology to really scale on how you collaborate with content. But for your own personal content, we have a service or a platform called TubeBuddy, where over 15 million creators like Mr. Beast and many others leverage this technology, and they use it, for example, for A/B testing a thumbnail. If you have a good performing thumbnail on YouTube, you're going to get a higher click-through rate that gets a higher view-through rate. And so we have something we call the thumbnail analyzer, where we show you, when you're A/B testing, which thumbnails are going to have the highest click-through rate, but we also show you heat mapping on where people are going to be looking on that thumbnail. We also do the same thing when it comes to generating titles to videos. And so creating content is a very manual process. And I think the narrative of like how DALL-E 2 or OpenAI is creating tools that's going to really make creators irrelevant is completely bullshit. What we're going to be able to do is make it so these creators can create more content faster. And so we're in the business of empowering these creators to be able to make that content. And so out of that 15 million creators that use these tools, there's thousands of brands, and both brands and creators have one thing in common: how to better understand their audience, but also how they can better monetize our audience. And so this is just the very beginning. There's going to be much bigger breakthroughs with multi-model AI, et cetera, that's going to make this even more interesting. Thank you for your question. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you.